So I really felt the need to make this video because I feel like, even though there are so many fans of this sport, I feel like nobody actually knows what constitutes the winning of a round in MMA. Like, you'll see a lot of people, as soon as someone gets a takedown, they'll say, oh, he won that fight. Like we've seen with Basil Hafez versus Jack Della Maddalena is a perfect example. We had all these people come and start crying that it was a robbery because Basil Hafez got a takedown and he held Jack down for the last minute of a round. Which, when Jack Della Maddalena was beating the shit out of him on the feet, damaging him and hurting him. So let me actually read what the prioritized criteria is for the rules of MMA. Effective striking and grappling. Legal blows that have immediate or cumulative impact with the potential to contribute towards the end of the match, with immediate weighing in more heavily than the cumulative impact. Successful execution of takedown, submission attempts, reversals, and the achievement of advantageous positions that produce immediate or cumulative impact with the potential to contribute to the end of the match, with the immediate weighing more heavily than the cumulative impact. It shall be noted that a successful takedown is not merely a changing of position, but the establishment of an attack from the use of the takedown. Top and bottom position fighters are assessed more on the impactful, effective result of their actions, more so than the position. This criteria will be the deciding factor in a high majority of decisions when scoring a round. The next true criteria must be treated as a backup and used only when the effective striking grappling is 100% equal for the round. Next is the effective aggressiveness. Aggressively making attempts to finish the fight. The key term is effective. Chasing after an opponent with no effective result or impact shall not render in the judge's assessments. Effective aggressiveness is only to be assessed if the effective striking and grappling is 100% equal for both competitors. Then moving on, there is the fighting area control. Fighting area control is assessed by determining who is dictating the pace, place, and position of the match. Fighting area control shall only be assessed if effective striking, grappling, and effective aggressiveness is 100% equal for both competitors. This will be assessed very rarely. And then they talk about the 10-10 rounds, which is when both fighters, for whatever duration of the time in the round, there is no difference or advantage between either fighter. A 10-10 round in MMA should be extremely rare and is not a score to be used as an excuse by a judge that cannot assess the differences in the round. A 10-10 round in MMA is a necessity to have for the judge's possible score, mainly due to scoring in complete rounds. It is possible to have a round where both fighters engage for 5 minutes, and at the end of the 5-minute time period, the output, impact, efficientness, and overall completion between the two fighters and the overall competition between the two fighters is exactly the same. It is possible, but highly unlikely, if there is any dissurmountable difference between the two fighters during the round. The judge shall not give the score of 10-10 again. This score will be extremely rare. So that's all, and then about the 10-9s. A 10-9 round is when one combatant wins the round by a close margin. Is the most common score a judge assesses during the night. If during the round the judge sees a fighter land the better strikes or utilize effective grappling during the competition, even if just by one technique over their opponent, the judge shall give the winning fighter a 10-9. While assessing the losing so they give a winning score of a 10, while assessing the losing fighter a score of 9 or less. It is imperative that judges understand that the score of 9 is not an automatic numerical score given to the losing fighter of the round. The judge must consider, was the fighter engaged in offensive actions during the round? Did the losing fighter compete with an attitude of attempting to win the round or just to survive the offensive actions of their opponent? Score of 10-9 can reflect on an extremely close round or a round of marginal dominance and or impact. And then, you all know about 10-8s. Is when a fighter wins by a large margin. Now, impact. A judge shall assess if a fighter impacts their opponent significantly in a round, even though they may not have dominated the action. Impact includes visible evidence such as swelling and laceration. Impact shall also be assessed when a fighter's actions using striking and/or grappling lead to a diminishing of their opponent's energies, confidence, abilities, and spirit. All of these come as a direct result of impact. When a fighter is impacted with strikes by lack of control and ability, this can create defining moments in the round and shall be assessed with great value. Now moving on is dominance. As MMA is an offensive-based sport, dominance of a round can be seen in striking when the losing fighter is forced to continuously defend with no counters or reaction taken when openings present themselves. Dominance in the grappling phase can be seen by fighters taking dominant position in the fight and utilizing those positions to attempt fight-ending submissions or attacks. Merely holding a dominant position shall not be a primary factor in assessing dominance. So when people say, "Oh, Basil Hafez had he had 6 minutes of control, but he didn't do any damage. He didn't land any strikes and he didn't go for any submissions." With Jan Blachowicz in the 3rd round against Alex Pereira, he got him down, but with those 30 seconds, he didn't land a single significant strike on the ground or do anything. So you cannot assess that he dominated. There was no dominance just because he had top position. Now, duration. Duration is defined by the time spent by one fighter effectively attacking, controlling, and impacting their opponent while the opponent offers little to no offensive output. A judge shall assess duration by recognizing the relative time in a round when one fighter takes and maintains full control of the effective offense. This can be assessed both standing and grounded. And then they talk about 10-7s, how 10-7 round is when a fighter overwhelms their opponent in effective striking and/or grappling and stoppage is warranted. A 10-7 round is a round that is a score that judges will rarely give. It takes both overwhelming dominance, in all caps, of a round, but also significant impact, with all caps, that at times cause the judge to consider that the fight could be stopped. A judge shall look for the multiple impactful blows. Impactful. I forgot to add that they were all in caps. Blows or knockdowns, and diminish the fighter and or grappling maneuvers that place the fighter in a dominant situation with impact being inflicted that visibly diminishes the fighter's abilities to compete. Then it talks about the fouls. Fouls. Don't really need to go into depth about the fouls. There's nothing. Rule meetings. Hand wraps. There's a whole thing saying female competitors should be allowed to compete in 5-minute rounds, 3 rounds for non-title bouts, and 5 rounds. So pretty much the same as guys. No, it isn't interesting. Double knockout situations. The ref shall stop a contest or exhibition of unarmed combat at any stage if the referee determines that both unarmed combatants are in such a situation to continue might subject the unarmed combatants to serious injury. If a contestant or exhibition is stopped pursuant to this subsection, this decision shall be deemed a technical draw. Alright, yeah, I think that should be everything that's important. Was there anything interesting in the 10-8 that I didn't mention? But it is essential that they flip. No, just dominated. Judges must consider giving the score of 10-8 when alert shows dominance in a round with no impactful scoring against the opponent. Jeez. Oh, okay, this is, yeah, I should have mentioned this earlier. MMA is an offensive-based sport. No scoring is given for defensive maneuvers. Using smart, technically sound defensive maneuvers allows the fighters to stay in the fight and to be competitive. Dominance of a round can be seen in striking when the losing fighter continuously attempts to defend with no counters or reaction. Dominance in the grappling phase can be seen by fighters taking dominant positions in the fight and utilizing these positions to attempt fight-ending submissions or attacks. If a fighter has little to no output during a 5-minute round, it should be normal for the judge to consider awarding the losing fighter 8 points instead of 9. Judges must consider giving the score of 10-8 when a fighter impacts their opponents significantly in a round, even though they do not dominate the actions. Effectiveness in striking or grappling, which leads to a diminishing of a fighter's energies, confidence, ability, and souls. All these come to the direct result of a negative impact. When a fighter is hurt with strikes, showing a lack of control or ability, these can be defining moments in the fight. If a judge sees that a fighter has been significantly damaged in the round, the judges should consider the score of 10-8. Alright, yeah, so that's pretty much it. I read it, so you don't have to go and read it. Because a lot of people don't understand the scoring criteria of MMA. Like, at all. So I felt obliged to make this video because so many people cry robberies when lay and pray fighters get... No, I'm not saying Jan Blachowicz is a lay and pray fighter, but I'm saying when someone lays and prays and they get the shit beaten out of them, or they get, significantly damaged on the feet, and then someone says, well, he got the 2 minutes of top control. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way, mate. Like, it doesn't work like that. You have to do damage. If you get somebody down and you're just sitting on top of them, not throwing punches, not going for submissions, not advancing position, it doesn't count at all. Read the criteria, or, watch this video, because I've literally just read the scoring criteria, the United Rules, all right? So now, if I see people cry robbery, every fight, there's always someone crying robbery. Like, damage is the #1 scoring criteria, like, in MMA. It's not wrestling, it's not about controlling your opponent. If you don't do any damage, you lose. Now, thanks for listening. I had to get this off my chest. I appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe. I don't know, comment some suggestions for something you want me to make. I just needed to read the United Rules of MMA, because nobody seems to know the Unified Rules, sorry. But I do. So, yeah, thanks for listening. Like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate it. And I'll see you next time.